Have you ever written a letter you never sent? One filled with words you were too scared to say, sealed away with a silent wish? For me, that letter became a time capsule. A ghost I thought I'd left behind in the dusty corners of my past. It was a letter to my first love, the one who painted my world in vibrant colors, and then, just as suddenly, left it in shades of grey. Our story wasn't a dramatic blockbuster. It was quiet, simple, and for a time, it was everything. We were two kids, barely out of our teens, navigating the chaotic map of early adulthood. He was the anchor in my storm, the calm voice that made sense of the noise. We shared dreams under starry nights, whispered secrets in crowded rooms, and built a small universe that belonged only to us. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Misunderstandings, like tiny cracks, began to appear. Pride built walls between us, and unspoken words became the heaviest burdens. The breakup was a silent implosion. No grand fights, no tearful goodbyes. Just a slow, painful drift until we were strangers again. Haunted by the memory of what we once were, in the raw aftermath, I poured every ounce of my heartbreak, my regret, and my lingering love onto a piece of paper. It was a confession, an apology, and a desperate plea all in one. I wrote about the small things I missed. The way he'd hum off key when he was happy, the crinkle by his eyes when he smiled. I wrote about the big things I regretted, the arguments I started, the times I failed to see his side. I asked for a second chance, a do-over, a way back to the universe we had built. But fear, that cold, paralyzing coward, got the best of me. What if he didn't feel the same? What if he laughed? What if he'd already moved on? The risk of a shattered heart felt too great. So, I folded the letter, tucked it into an old copy of Wuthering Heights, and tried my best to forget. Years passed. Seasons changed, and so did I. I traveled, built a career, and found a comfortable rhythm in a life that no longer included him. The sharp edges of the heartbreak softened into a dull ache, a distant memory I rarely revisited. I convinced myself I was over it, that our chapter was firmly closed. That is, until last spring. While cleaning out my parents' attic, I stumbled upon a box of old books from college. And there it was, Wuthering Heights. My heart skipped a beat. With trembling hands, I opened it, and the letter, yellowed and fragile, slipped out. Reading it was like stepping into a time machine. The ink was slightly faded, but the emotions were as vivid as the day I wrote them. Every word was a gut punch, a reminder of the girl I used to be, and the love I had so carelessly let slip away. Suddenly, all the carefully constructed walls I had built around my heart came crumbling down. The what-ifs I had buried for so long screamed in my mind. What if I had sent it? Where would we be now? The comfortable peace I had found felt like a cheap imitation of happiness. The ghost I thought I'd laid to rest was back, and it was demanding answers. I knew I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. After a week of agonizing, I found him online. His profile picture showed a man with the same kind eyes, but now with a touch of wisdom and a few more laugh lines. My finger hovered over the message button for what felt like an eternity. Taking a deep breath, I typed a simple, "Hi, it's been a while. Can we talk?" To my shock, he replied almost instantly, "I've been waiting for this message for 10 years. We met at a small coffee shop, the air thick with a decade of unspoken words. The awkward small talk quickly dissolved, and I found myself confessing everything. I told him about the letter, about my fear, my regret, and the ghost of him that had quietly lingered in my life. I pulled the letter from my bag and slid it across the table. He read it slowly, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the old fear crept back in. Maybe this was a mistake. When he finally looked up, his eyes were glistening. He reached across the table and took my hand. "I wrote one too," he said, his voice thick with emotion. He explained that his pride, his own fear of rejection, had stopped him from reaching out. He had thought I'd moved on, that I was happier without him. We had both been trapped in the same prison of what-ifs, living parallel lives of quiet regret, both too afraid to make the first move. It wasn't a magical fix. 10 years is a long time. We were different people, shaped by different experiences. But in that coffee shop, we chose to stop being haunted by the past. We chose to start a new chapter, not as the kids we were, but as the adults we had become, finally giving ourselves the second chance we had both secretly craved. We started slow, rebuilding our friendship, rediscovering each other piece by piece. There were new quirks to learn, new stories to share, but underneath it all, the foundation we had built all those years ago was still there, waiting for us. That unsent letter, once a symbol of my greatest regret, became the catalyst for my greatest healing. It taught me that vulnerability isn't a weakness, and that sometimes the biggest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards. Our story isn't a fairy tale ending, but it's a real one. It's about forgiveness, not just for each other, but for ourselves. It's about having the courage to face the ghosts of your past and realizing they might just be showing you the way home. So, if you have a letter you never sent, maybe it's time to ask yourself, what are you waiting for? Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it resonated with you in any way, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories from the heart. See you next time.